Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich talks with community leaders about issues in the public safety arena. Sponsored by River Ridge Hardware.
This is Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich with the Sheriff's Report. Today in studio with me we have Jonathan Bingle, and Jonathan's running for Spokane City Council. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan to do a quick introduction. Tell us which position you're actually running for, and the ultimate question is why.
Right. Well, my name is Jonathan Bingle. I'm running for City Council position, District 1, Position 2. Michael Cathcart sits in Position 1 right now. Kate Burke sits in Position 2. And so I'm running for Kate Burke's seat. I'm running because, like many people that I've spoken to, we're just frustrated by the direction that this City Council is going. We see very much, heavy influences from the bigger cities in Washington, and we see the policies that are being passed in bigger cities like Seattle being, starting to find their way into Spokane. And being somebody who very deeply loves this area and wants to see it continue along the right path, that compelled me to run, to fight for, conservative values, and to fight for the city of Spokane without allowing other cities' policies and ideologies to taint and to pervert the city of Spokane. So that's one of the big reasons why I'm running.
You're kind in your introduction there, because I'm not.
Yeah.
I see what's going on, and people may not realize I'm actually a citizen of the city of Spokane. I live in the city of Spokane.
Yeah.
And some of the things I see and some of the things I hear them do really worries me, because I know the jeopardy that it puts the citizens of the city. And I call this particular city council Seattle Light.
Absolutely.
I mean, you are heading down the path of that extreme socialism, Marxism, and people go, Sheriff, Marxism, really?
Without a doubt.
That is it. I mean, when you start talking about critical anything.
Absolutely, any critical theory.
Critical race theory, critical criminology, it is all based on Marxist philosophy. Now, how do I know that? After working for my master's, getting my master's, I had to study, had to read all kinds of books, and the books actually state that. I mean, they don't hide it in your college curricula. As a matter of fact, it is taught at the college curricula level.
Yes.
So I'm not being, that extreme idealist. No, I'm just being a realist, man. This is what's coming. Wake up, or you're going to have that Marxist philosophy. So with that in mind, when you're talking about that philosophy versus what your vision would be, let's hit the ground running, if you will. Public safety, law enforcement.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think? Where are we?
So what I've been told, and through the conversations that I've had with yourself and the police chief in the city of Spokane, what I know is that we're about 100 officers short of where we should be for a city our size. And the state of Washington is 50th out of 50 when it comes to police per capita. If you
we're
count,
actually 51st.
I was about to say, if you count Washington, D.C., then we're 51st. And when you're dealing with a situation like that, when you have a police department that is severely underfunded, what ends up happening is, some of the crimes that frustrate us most, property crimes, we just don't have the bodies to deal with them. Our police officers are terrific. As a matter of fact, I'm going on another ride-along tomorrow. But on the ride-alongs I've been on, you see they have all these calls coming in, and they have to prioritize based on, severity, which makes sense. But if we had the officers, if we had the staff available, then we could actually start to see, I think, a significant decrease in crime, because we would have the ability to actually go and punish and take care of criminals. So I want to very much push for the proper funding of our police force to get it to the level that it needs to be, to where Spokane can be, our families and our neighborhoods can be as safe as possible.
One of the things that concerned me just recently in reading the paper on some of the ideas that are coming out, and part of that is, mental health. And rather than give SPD kudos for the work that they've been doing in that arena. The city council once again wants to strip them of their abilities, which means the behavioral health units, which have been working very, very well, police officer and frontier behavioral mental health specialists teamed up in a patrol car. They go out and respond. We've cut many people from having to go to jail, from going to the emergency room, getting the proper health right then and there. They want to cut that. And basically, they found a way to defund the police department.
Without a doubt.
In that the initiative they passed, I believe it was in 2019, which they passed in order to get more police officers, they now want to strip that money and put more money into behavioral health folks that will go out with EMS to deal with these things. And the EMS folks and behavioral health folks are going, wait a minute, you realize what we're going to?
Right.
So those are the type of things that worry me about electing people to the city council. What's your thoughts? Are you willing to step up and stand against these basically behind the scene defund efforts?
Absolutely. So my wife and I, we had last year, we own an events and entertainment business, and the government's response to the pandemic shut our business and our industry down. Even now it is, I mean, it's recovering, but incredibly slowly. And we had a real moment there in time where it was like, is this where we want our future to be? Because Spokane has always been my home. I love this city more than anything. And we had a real time where we had to think about it. And I don't know what it was, but something rose up inside of me, and it's just, I refuse to cede this territory, physically or intellectually, to people who hate the United States, who hate what it stands for, who hate those who enforce the laws of the land, and I refuse to cede that territory. And that same passion and energy and fire and that fight, I'm very much looking forward to bringing, because it's a noble fight that needs to be fought. And if people don't rise up and fight it, then what we're going to find is we're going to find a situation where many people just say, okay, this isn't what I recognize anymore, I'm out. And I refuse to be one of those people who is the flight. I'm going to be the fight.
Well, and amazingly enough, you have all these people leaving the Seattle area, the King County area. They're coming here, and I've actually talked to those folks over the last 6, 7, 8 years that we've started seeing that slow erosion out of the Seattle, King County area into other parts of the state of Washington. And in my discussions with them, they always complain about what happened there and how bad it was. And then they start talking about the politics, and I'm like, okay, you just said how bad it was. Why are you still electing the same type of people? And you're thinking about voting for those same type of people here. Do me one favor. Don't bring what you ran away from here.
Don't Seattle our Spokane.
That seems to click with them and gives them takes them back a little, and they go, you're right. Why we cannot continue to say we don't like what happened, but continue to elect those simply because of a letter.
Totally.
And I'm amazed at that mentality. Homelessness. What do you want to do?
Yeah, so typically when we talk about homelessness, the people who are frustrated with the homeless, they're typically talking about the chronically homeless, the vagrants, the shelter-resistant homeless, and that's really what I want to focus in on. Because those who are temporarily homeless, bad bill knocked them out. We're a generous community. We want to see you get back on your feet. But when it comes to vagrants and the chronically homeless who do tend to have overwhelming addiction issues or mental health issues, the thing is that the real tragedy of the situation is that in the United States, and particularly on the West Coast, by the way, Washington, Oregon, and California comprise 61% of the nation's homeless population are in our 3 states. And I think that's because we have really bad policies. And the problem is that we're treating a human problem like it's a housing problem. And being generous people, we continue to throw money at it. But the problem is that in government, there's a pretty basic axiom. Anything you want to get rid of, you tax. Anything you want to promote, you subsidize. And by throwing more and more and more and more money at homelessness, what we've done is we've inadvertently created an industry of homelessness where we continue to fund providers who with very good intentions are contributing to a problem. And so what we need to do as a city is we need to decrease our funding for homeless providers because we're just continuing to enable folks who really, housing isn't their issue. The addiction and the mental illness are the issue. And those are the things that we need to be focusing on. Those are the things that we need to be seeing progress on in individuals to continue to help them get to restoration, to help them get to the healing from their brokenness. And that's the philosophy I want to bring is, if you need help, we want to help you. There is a plan that you must follow. There is something that you must contribute back to the city of Spokane because it's unfair for you to just take from the city of Spokane without contributing anything back.
Very rarely do you hear that line of thinking expressed openly in this discussion. The people that, at least one of your opponents that you're running against is on the exact opposite of that. And I've listened to the council president, Mr. Beggs, talk about homelessness and how it's a housing issue. It's an affordable housing issue.
Right.
Sorry. I hate to tell you this, but this is not economic driven.
Correct.
Because if it was, we could actually help. Because most people that end up homeless due to economic situations want out.
Yep.
They don't want to stay in that environment. You are 100% spot on when you say that they're shelter resistant, meaning they don't want to live in shelters.
Right.
They want to live out on the street, and our own media has countered that narrative, going, oh no, we've talked. Who have you talked to?
Right.
Because I talk to these folks and they're like, no, I don't really want a shelter. We have an individual that sleeps outside the public safety building daily and nightly. We have done everything in our power to help that individual out, but they don't want to stay in a shelter. And as far as I'm concerned, anytime you provide a safe place to shoot poison into your body, that's assisted homicide.
Absolutely it is.
And you don't fix people by allowing them to kill themselves, and that's basically what we're allowing them to do. You have to, the big word is accountability.
Yep.
And it's so refreshing to hear somebody talk about, we will help you, but there's an accountability piece here. UGM does a great job in that arena.
Yes, absolutely.
So law enforcement, we have the homeless issue, then I'm going to talk about another big one, and that's the mental health issue.
Yes.
What's your thoughts on the mental health crisis that Spokane really is dealing with, but no one likes to talk about, and quite frankly, no one's really providing the funding to fix that issue?
Yeah, we do have a mental health crisis, and I think it really does stem from a lot of the curriculum in schools. Quite honestly, I think the way that students are being taught, I think it's a really perverse ideology in many ways that particularly to certain individuals when they tell them that you can't succeed in America, the country that you live in is incredibly racist. It's never been good. It's never actually helped anybody in the world. We're giving these people a crisis of identity, and it's no wonder that we're dealing with mental health issues more than what we've seen in the past. And it's because again, when you are telling somebody that they're bad, their country is bad, their family is bad, this is bad, it's no wonder when somebody says, okay, well, where do I belong? Why do I exist? It's no wonder that these issues actually happen. And so that's why I'm thankful for people like Kata Dean and Daryl Gefkin who are running for school board, because we need some significant changes in our curriculum. We need some significant changes in the direction of our public schools, because public schools play an important role in our city. And I think over the last year and a half, I think the way that we didn't allow children to go back to schools when we knew that children were going to be safe. There were much better solutions than not allowing children to be back in schools. I think I think that's been a major contributing factor to mental health, and so I'm excited for people who are rising up in those arenas as well to help correct that ship, to help right where that's going, because I think that's going to play some big dividends in the future generations when it comes to mental health. So
the concept that really drives a lot of the mental health issues at the severe level is a concept called least restrictive alternative. And the state, and quite frankly, even at the national level, extremely at the state level, they have defunded mental health. The western state, eastern state, in pretty much crisis because of what's going on. And least restrictive alternative means no one should be institutionalized. They should be released into the community, into halfway houses. But Jonathan, when they fell at the halfway houses, they're not going back to the institution, where they end up on the street. So the problem that relays is it totally is going to impact your budget on the city council. What's the message for the state that you would like to give the state in reference to, you cannot continue to dump severely mentally ill individuals who truly, their only true safety net is institutionalized, and people want to say that that's an evil word. No, it's not. I mean, that's how they get help. That's how they get the treatment. That's how they get better. What's your message to these politicians that just want to, drop it at the local level and walk away?
So again, I would say let's look at our mentally ill population, and again, we know that a good portion of the chronically homeless are mentally ill, and we can ask ourselves this question right here: is this what we want for that group of folks? Is this what we want? If not, then we've got to do something different, and I think it does come down to funding those programs to make sure that we are able to take care of them in the best way possible.
Right. When we also take a look at Spokane, roads always come into the major discussion. I've never lived in a community that is so hyperly focused on roadways. What's your plan for sustainability? Because this area is growing, and I've always looked at Spokane as a diamond in the rough. And if the Spokane ever truly figured out its identity, there'd be no stopping this thing from being one of the, powerhouses economically within the state of Washington.
Absolutely.
We're always hampered by the east side or the west side because they make doing business very, very hard in this area. In the state. So your thoughts on the sustainability of growth and how we maintain the infrastructure. And I want to throw one caveat in. If you're going to bring more people in, and you're going to bring more businesses in and more development, why is there never a strategic planning for your public safety to go along with that growth?
So we do have some pretty incredible growth that's happening right now. I think that one of our biggest issues when it comes to the growth is the amount of housing that we have. Right now in 2017 we were 32,000 housing units short. And so for us to, I think, be able to fund and establish really solid budgets for infrastructure, I think we need to get housing built, because then we can widen the tax base. As opposed to a few paying a lot, we can have a much broader tax base paying property taxes, funding things that are going to be able to take care of the roads. We also have a pretty unique situation right now in that the city is receiving $84 million in American Rescue Plan funds. These are dollars that should not be used for programs that have a yearly budget. These are one-time dollars. We should use them on things that haven't been done in the past. And specifically, we have the ability with $84 million. In the Northeast, we have 61 miles of unpaved roads, okay? we have $84 million that we can use to pave some of the roads, to widen, certain sections of the freeway, whatever we need to do to make it to where traffic flows much better. Because, and I think, again, one of the reasons why we're having increased strain on our roads is because by not allowing housing to be built here, what's happening is people are building in Post Falls. Now, many of those people, or Liberty Lake, or the Valley, or Airway Heights, or Deer Park, they're building around instead of building in Spokane. Many of these people still work in Spokane, and so we're having huge, commuters, or a great amount of commuters coming from other parts of the area to work in the city, and it's no wonder that we're seeing increased strain on our infrastructure. So I think that by building housing in the city of Spokane, we can significantly reduce traffic numbers, which also helps to significantly reduce the amount of carbon that these vehicles are emitting into the environment, to help us to do as much as we can as human beings to reduce our carbon footprint. I think housing is a big deal. I think the money that's coming in from the American Rescue Plan are dollars that we should be spending on the infrastructure.
All right. We've talked about the homeless. We've talked about the mental health issues, economic aspects, law enforcement. And I want to hit you with the issue that I've faced for the last 16 years.
Yes.
When are we going to do something about a broken criminal justice system? And the reason part of that system is broken is you have a broken jail.
Totally.
So what is your thoughts on how do we finally break this logjam and build a system? Because there are people out there, people that you're running against, people that are in power at the city, have this concept of, well, they just want to build a new jail. And that's never been the concept. It's been the concept of building a new system.
Right.
So what's your thoughts? How do we get there? How do we break this logjam?
Well, one of my favorite expressions that's come out over the last, year and a half is listening to the experts. And I'm surprised that when it comes to criminal justice that we have a city council that doesn't listen to the experts. And so that's where I would start is again, by taking input from the people who are actually doing the work of criminal justice. And, there's a lot of people involved in that. Yourself, obviously, Police Chief Meidel, many from the courts systems. We can take and have those conversations and then actually put into a plan that's going to be good for the city of Spokane and for Spokane County and for the region, because we know that right now, particularly with jail, we know that the jail is too small for the area that we have. It was small when it was built. It continues to be small, and as the population grows, if we want to get serious about taking a hard stance against crime and not allowing criminals to reign in the city, then we have to have the ability to actually enforce the laws. And so those are things that, again, at the city level, I want to be a voice for reason. I want to be a voice for truth and justice along those lines, because right now I don't see a lot in the city council who are very interested in actually protecting the community. I see a very strong push to protect the people committing the crimes, and I want as much as anybody else for a criminal to be rehabbed into society and to rejoin and be our brother again or our sister again. But the real deal is that I think that victims in our area have been overlooked, and I think it's long past time that we actually take crime seriously and we protect people in this city.
A lot of frustration when you talk to citizens about these issues. I know that you've been going door to door, and I've talked to a lot of the candidates throughout the region that are doing the same thing you're doing. The overarching theme seems to be major concern about law and order, crime. And you have a city council that actually supported, if not helped sponsor, some very bad legislation that has come down, and we are now reaping the rewards of in reference to law enforcement. We have about 3 minutes left. What do you think about how you are going to deal with the legislature on these issues, and then wrap up with your final thoughts, and more importantly, how these folks get a hold of you to help you with your campaign?
So we've already dealt with this. So we at our church building, we had some people that were that we didn't want on the property, And unfortunately, after the state law came in, we emailed with an officer, and they, basically said, we know this sucks, but based on this legislation, we cannot help you, was kind of it. And anytime you have police telling citizens when they fear for their safety, when they are, potentially in danger, sorry, you're on your own, I think we have a really big problem. And so we're going to do everything that we can. I'm going to do everything that I can at the city level to refute and rebuke that state legislation, to try and make it to where our citizens will actually feel and believe that they're safe in the community. With that being said, again, my name is Jonathan Bingle. I'm running for City Council in District 1, which is the Northeast. The election is on August 3rd. If you haven't filled out your ballot, I hope you vote for me. You can check me out at jonathanbingle.com. And if you have any questions, give us a call, send us an email. All of the information is on there. I see all of those inquiries, and I would love to get back to you. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Sheriff, for having me on. I really appreciate it, and it's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you for coming on. And folks, I'm going to tag into what Jonathan just said. Primary is coming up. Here's the sad part of what's happened to America. You all stopped voting in the primaries. Mm-hmm. You're out at the lakes, you're wrapped up with kids, soccer and everything else, really busy lives. And if you want to know why you have lost control of your government to the extremes on both the left and the right, it's because you have forgotten that you have to vote in the primary. Mm-hmm. The extremes plan that. They come out en masse in the primary. You need to start voting in the primary to counter the extremes. Elect good people mm-hmm. who have your interest in line, mm-hmm. not the extreme agendas and dogma of parties, but the care of the people, doing the people's business. We forget, we are the government. Mm-hmm. There's not this thing called government. In America, it's we are the government.
That's
and
right.
You need to start taking your government back.
Yes.
And you do that in the primary. Mm-hmm. This is Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich with the Sheriff's Report. Have a good day.
Thank you.
This is River Ridge Frame Shop, called Frame It Today, where we can take your art, customize it, and get it ready to hang on the wall.
Thanks for watching. Ask the host a question, recommend a guest, or check out any of our other programs on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com. Sponsored by River Ridge Hardware.